Be doing here momentarily. The cannon we're going to be firing is this little cannon here. This is a model 1841 6-pounder field cannon. It is called 6-pounder because it fired a cannonball that weighed
6 pounds.
You got it. This is a field artillery method. It would normally be used by infantry soldiers going directly into combat. It's not the kind of cannon you normally have in a fort. Fort cannons usually are the big ones you see up there. And if it hadn't been raining today, we'd be shooting some of those for you. But anyway, we're going to shoot the little 6-pounder. The reason we have this here is because Fort Macon did at one point have little cannons of this exact type and model. So that's why we have this one. This is an original cannon made in 1864. It was in that war. It's almost as old as I am. We don't know where it actually fought, but it is a type, the exact type of model that was once used here. The gun crew that we have here is going to be firing this momentarily for you. When you have cannons of those days, there's a lot more to it than just walking up. You throw a couple of tablespoons of gunpowder in there and light a little fuse thing, and boom, the cannon fires. It takes an entire crew of artillerymen to operate one of these things. Each person on the gun crew has specific duties that they have to carry out in the loading process, and they have to act as a team. And they're going to be doing that momentarily. What do these guys do? Well, very briefly, we're going to do it kind of briefly because we don't know what the rain's going to do. But you have 2 cannoneers on the front, numbers 1 and 2. Number 1 rams the ammunition down. Number 2 will receive ammunition that is brought up to him. He inserts it in the muzzle of the cannon so number 1 can ram it down. Remember, these cannons are muzzle-loaded weapons. Everything is inserted in the muzzle. It is rammed all the way down to the back, packed down, boom, fire back out. So, muzzle-loaded weapons. Numbers 1 and 2, clean and load the cannon. Pack it down. You take the powder charge, pack it down, and boom, it gets fired back out. So that's their duties. On the right side over here, at the rear, cannoneer number 3 has several duties. He will take an instrument called a priming wire and insert it in the little hole in the back of the cannon. You probably have seen enough TV and movies to know that there's a hole in these cannons on the back. Yes, that is called the vent. He takes a priming wire like a giant ice pick, runs it down that hole and punches a hole in the powder pack. He helps the gunner aim. He'll move the trail of the cannon back and forth on the gunner's command to bring the muzzle on target as they're aiming. And then he will receive a friction primer from cannoneer number 4. He inserts that in the hole, the vent hole on the back. This is different from what you normally see in the movies. Now in the movies, when you fire one of these old cannons, don't they always show you with a little fuse or a wick thing sticking out of the hole in the back? And you stand there with your box of matches or your pick lighter. Yeah, they had those in 1861, didn't they? Or if you're Clint Eastwood in The Good, the Bad, the Ugly, you will take your cigar and touch the fuse and boom, the can fires. Is that the way this is really done? No. That, my friends, is Hollywood. Cannons are not fired with a fuse or a wick. They have a detonator called a friction primer. It's a little copper tube full of gunpowder and a composition like what you have on the head of a match. That primer is inserted in the vent hole in the back of the cannon, and attached to the primer will be a firing cord called the lanyard. Number 4 cannoneer on the left side here at the rear is the guy who actually fires the cannon. He gets the good job. He actually makes it go boom, right? It's a guy thing, man. We love stuff that blows up. He makes it go boom. He has a hold of the lanyard. The lanyard is attached to the primer. At the command fire, he pulls the lanyard. The primer will explode, instantly detonating the powder bag. Boom, the cannon fires. That is how these guns are fired back in the day, not with a fuse or a wick like you see in the movies. So you see, you learned something today. All right, yeah. In command will be the gunner. The gunner gives the orders to his gun crew, and he's got several things he has to do as well. He's the one that has to aim the cannon, so he has to visually estimate the range to the target. The elevating screw under the breech is used to move the barrel down, bring it on target. The lateral is accomplished by number 3 coming around, picking up the trail of the cannon and moving it back and forth on the gunner's command. That's how you aim one. If he is firing a shell, an exploding shell, the gunner will call out how many seconds he wants the shell to explode, and they will set the fuse for that. So he's got to be able to estimate how long it's going to take the shell to reach the target, so the fuse in the shell will explode when it gets there. And windy day like today, he's got to make allowance for the velocity of the wind and even temperature of the air. So there's a lot of things this guy is thinking about in battle under fire. Now, in modern military, obviously, we have computers to do all that kind of calculating for us. In the 1860s, did you have computers?
No.
You had one, and that's the one between your ears. And that's what he has to rely on. So he's visually estimating ranges to target, time of flight, range, azimuth, temperature, all this kind of stuff. So he's a busy guy with a lot on his mind. Our final cannoneer is cannoneer number 5 here. He's the one that brings the ammunition up to the gun crew. The ammunition is stored in the rear. He goes to get it. Whatever time for the fuse will be called out, he brings the cannon ball up to pass off to cannoneer number 2 at the front to put in the muzzle for number 1 to ram down. Now, what kind of ammunition did they have back in those days? Pretty much the same as they do today. You have solid ammunition like an armor piercing. You have exploding ammunition. Yes, they had exploding shells going back literally to the 1300s. And then you had fragmentation ammunition that could blow away attackers as whole ranks of attackers at close range. Whatever type of ammunition the occasion demands, that is inserted in the muzzle and boom, fired out. Now, we're going to be shooting this thing momentarily. We are using just a partial gunpowder charge. Normally, this cannon has a combat load of 20 ounces of gunpowder. We're using a 1 pound charge, 16 ounces. Now, word of caution. When we fire, the cannonball comes out, usually strikes in the corner down there, hits the angle wall here, is reflected, ricochets across. The impact zone is in this immediate area of the fort right in here. Some of you looking at me so serious. No, it's too much paperwork for me, I'm sorry. No, this is just a blank gunpowder charge without the ball. If we were in combat, obviously, we'd be using some kind of ammunition. Okay, are we ready? Gunner, up to you.
Shell, 900 yards, 2.5 seconds. Load. Ready.
I can't hear you. Look at Joe's big smile.
Joe was so happy.